Let's talk about car companies themselves. Bill Ford Jr. recently had an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal where essentially he said, as a company, we can't limit ourselves anymore to our old model where we built and sold cars. He said in the title of this, we can't sell cars anymore. Not that they won't sell cars anymore, but that they understand that the world is changing and that they can't be just a car manufacturer anymore. So sort of looking ahead to what I refer to as a more carbon constrained world, what should the Fords and the General Motors and the Toyotas be thinking about what they build and how they actually think about future customers?
I wish I had the answer to that. I'd probably be a very wealthy investor at this point.
Or an employee of Ford Motor Company.
Right. The only kind of thoughts that I have about it would go back to there's this Peter Drucker quote that I know it's getting kind of old school, but there's this Peter Drucker quote that I really like, which is, he kind of was responding to a lot of people who thought that the purpose of business was to make a profit. And he's very quick to kind of correct them in one of the books that he wrote, which is the purpose of business is not to make a profit. In fact, that's kind of the limitation in a lot of ways of businesses. The fact that they're forced to have to make a profit kind of prevents them from doing the kinds of things that they want to do. And he says the purpose of business is to create a customer. And I think that when you kind of take a step back like that and you say, the purpose of business is to create a customer, then the question is, what does the customer need? What does the customer need really? And if you think of Ford as really trying to solve a particular problem, they've been solving it an individual way for a long time, which has been to manufacture a car, which you can then put gas into and, drive from one place to another and park and things like that. Ultimately, the problem that they're trying to solve and the customer that they're trying to create is a person who wants to get from point A to point B. And they want to be able to go, a longer distance, and they want to, be able to do it in comfort, and et cetera. So I think they need to think about how they go about solving that problem in new and innovative ways, right? I think sometimes by kind of taking a step back, you realize where you have space for innovation. And I don't know exactly what that means for them. Maybe that means that there's sort of like why is there no car that has sort of like a bicycle attached to it, where you can park it into one place, and then you can sort of like, decouple your bike and ride that, and then return it to the mothership and then drive off again, but still have it look attractive and still have it work. Like there's no particular reason that doesn't exist today, and yet somehow it doesn't. Why isn't the trunk designed to fit a bike, underneath? And I think that if companies really start to think about the way that they, the kinds of problems that they're solving, I think they'll recognize that customers can be created because they're willing to experiment with something and try something new. There's only so much newness that customers can take at once. That's definitely true, and I've been on that side of that within the tech industry as well. But I think that that you can find interesting ways of solving their problems. Maybe they can resolve a parking challenge at the same time as they're manufacturing a car, right? Tesla is trying to solve a recharging problem while at the same time that they're trying to sell a car. And I think thinking about it in that broader context will certainly help them out. In terms of what the actual solution is that makes the most sense, that's where you get into your focus groups and your usability studies and your feasibility assessments and everything else. But I think that broadening the scope is probably what he's referring to.
Yeah. The companies that you've worked with, I gather up this point, have been sort of largely software focused. How is and the companies that I tend to talk to are obviously more hardware focused. There's a software component to it, of course. Tesla's, really more just a rolling computer than anything else. How transferable is the sort of what you know about what works in the software tech side of the industry translatable to the hardware manufacturer side of things?
Well, I think the philosophy behind it and the concepts about understanding behavior change and what makes customers tick, that's transferable unilaterally. It doesn't really matter what medium you're talking about. To me, it's kind of like art. It's kind of like if you know something about sculpture, does that mean you know how to paint? Well, not really, but those artists could have a conversation with one another about the meaningfulness of the work that they do, right? And how it, transcends, the physical world. So the same kind of thing is really applicable here, which is you can talk about behavior change, and you can talk about the science of that, and you can talk about the way that people make decisions, and you can think about how that might influence things within the software world, within the hardware world, et cetera. It just happens to be the case that the medium that I'm familiar with and the medium that I know how to kind of like handle is really software.
The companies that you're working with right now, and we'll wrap things up here. The companies that you're working with right now, the Whoops and the Live Safe and things like that, what excites you about them, and what is there about those companies that could change are designed to change our behavior?
Yeah, sure. So if you kind of go back in my own career, the kind of problem that I've always been really fascinated by is one in which you take a bunch of data from different sources, you pull all that information together, and out of that data, which just looks like a bunch of numbers and ones and zeros and things, convert those into insights, things that actually have real meaning to people. And then use those insights then to drive behavior change in some way. So I did that at eBay by trying to solve a merchandising problem, which was trying to get people to effectively buy fries with that. It's kind of the problem that I was trying to solve there. And then I did that later at another company that was trying to try to get people to click on more banner ads, which wasn't exactly the most noble thing in the world. So then I moved on to do that with oPower, which is trying to get people to conserve energy in their houses and to become more energy efficient. And I think that one was really inspiring to me. It's something that I really wanted to kind of apply elsewhere with other companies. And so the thing that excites me about a lot of the companies that I work with, LiveSafe, Whoop, et cetera, is that there is this double bottom line aspect to their company. They're trying to implement a positive social change. LiveSafe is a great example of this, where they are a mobile application that helps people to be more safe as they're sort of walking, from one place to another, or they can report crime-related incidents anonymously, or if they're not sure whether they should, it's something they shouldn't call 911 about, but they still want to report something, that can be helpful as well. So those are all examples of things that that make the world a safer place, make the world a better place.
Right.
There's stuff I'm doing with Conveil, right, on the transportation side, et cetera. So they all make the world a better place, and I think that's something that is inspiring to me. And I think that behavior change, in a lot of ways, is really what it's all about. We all know how to protect the environment. We just don't actually change our behaviors to do it, right? And I think that understanding what locks us into the habits that we currently have and how to unlock those things gives us as people a lot more freedom. And I think that I love trying to solve those types of problems and really trying to understand what the hang-up. The only reason that we're not making progress on some of these really meaningful challenges that we're faced with is because of the standard set of behaviors that we have. And if we can unlock ourselves by unlocking what makes people tick, then we can actually have that level of impact. And to me, that's inspiring. It's a thing that I'm really excited about with the companies that I work with. And I think hopefully as a result they'll all be really successful.
Good. How can people learn more about what you're up to? I know obviously there's the TED Talk that you gave, which I think I'll certainly put a link to, but
Sure.
what else? A blog, a Twitter account?
Yeah, well, I used to write a blog on best practices in product management, but it's a little bit more peripheral to what we're talking about here. But probably the best thing is just look me up on LinkedIn. Maybe you can put a link to my LinkedIn profile up as well.
Sure.
And there I kind of talk about some of the companies that I work with and some of the work that I do with them. I usually do it in more of an advisory kind of capacity rather than that of like a consultant. It's probably the best way that I can have leverage and really try to help the company to succeed. And I'm always open to having conversations with smart people working on interesting challenges, particularly those things that have a positive social impact. So,
qualify.
yeah. So Well, so that's why it's a pleasure for me to do the interview with you, and hopefully you found this helpful as well.
Good, great. Well, look, thank you so much, Ben. I really appreciate it. We've had Ben Foster with us. We're talking about what it takes to get people to change. Behavioral. What are some of the I hate to use the word tricks, but basically some of the tricks and strategies that can make the world a better place. So, thanks a lot, Ben.
Great. Thank you, Bill.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.